Hi everyone, we're just getting warmed up. We'll be with you guys we'll be ready to start in a couple of minutes. So just bear with us, please.
Lawrence, I'm seeing the whole screen, you know?
That's all right. I think we're ready to start. I think it's working on Facebook. So welcome everyone.
It does look like it's on Facebook. I'm seeing your background screen. I mean,
Yeah, that's that. Well, you should. Well, you should be able to see the upcoming webinar screen, I hope.
Yes. Shall we go? Lawrence, you hear me? Everybody hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hello, everyone.
I believe they can.
Hi, everybody. 104 of you on Zoom. I don't know how many on Facebook at the moment. Shalom, Erev Tov from Tel Aviv. I'm here in my office for first time in feels like years. It's been 6 weeks, I believe. Oh, my internet connection. Hope everybody's doing well, sheltering safely. Here in Israel, we're slowly coming back to normal. My name is Jay Shofet. I'm Partnership and Development Director of the Society for the Protection of Nature in Israel, HaChavra L'Haganat HaTeva. So excited to greet everybody here tonight from, I'm guessing, several continents and many cities around the world. 110 already on Zoom and more coming up on Facebook. Very excited tonight. We're going to be hosting Iris Hahn, our CEO here at the Society for the Protection of Nature in Israel, and my boss. Iris will be talking to us about SPNI, Corona, and climate change. She's got an exciting brand new presentation. Things have been changing here dynamically as they are around the world, and how that all relates to nature protection is something we're going to talk about tonight. Iris is going to talk for 40, 45 minutes or so, and then take questions afterwards. It's Society for Protection of Nature, Israel's oldest, largest environmental NGO. We're proud to be leaders in environmental education, in advancing the culture of hiking in Israel, in our field schools, which we invented and revolutionized, where man meets nature out in nature. And of course, our nature protection work, which is the heart of what we do through the tools of science and policy planning and the law and the Knesset regulations and our planning department, which Iris used to head. I think it's time to start. I see we're up to 125 people already. Welcome everybody to talk on SPNI, Corona and climate change. Our CEO, my boss, Iris Hahn, is with us. She'll be giving a fascinating presentation, I'm sure. Iris is a planner and a lawyer by profession. She started out in SPNI as a Mora Chayelet, as a soldier teacher in one of our field schools, and but she took a detour in her career. She worked as a lawyer in private practice, and she was the director of the planning directorate of the Ministry of Environmental Protection. She's been with us now for 3 years, almost 2.5 years as CEO, and lots of changes going on here. Really thrilled to have you here tonight, Iris. Good luck and take it away.
Okay, so good evening in Israel to everybody. Wow, I'm excited as well. And let's just start. Thank you, Jay, for the introduction. Now the first test, technological test, to share the screen. Just a moment. Okay. I hope everybody can see the screen.
Yeah, everyone can see the screen.
Yes? Okay, very good. So this will be our talk tonight, nature conservation in Israel, what we do every day, but now in the shade of the Corona crisis. And let's just go into business. So Jay made a short introduction, and he mentioned most of the things that you can see here in this slide. SPNI was founded in 1953, one of the oldest non-governmental environmental organization in the whole world. Israel was only 5 years when the SPNI was founded. Everybody here was speaking about development. And a few crazy people woke up and say, hello, beside the building and development of developing this country, we have to protect the nature here in Israel. The nature in Israel is very, very unique. The biodiversity is very rich. And this is how the SPNI was founded. You can see here that we have 3 main ways of activity. One of them is environmental activism, which we do by planning and building, participating in planning and building committees. This is my professional background as well. In courts, in the main governmental, central governmental entities, in municipalities. The second way of acting is education. It's a very main activity that we do, and of course, ecotourism. I want to mention before we go on that we have 33,000 households that are members in the SPNI. They give us our public power. And of course, we have the professional power. We are very professional, and we try to be updated and professional in everything that we do. And before we go inside into the challenges that we cope with today, let's take 2 minutes to remember what we are protecting here in Israel. A few photos from Israeli beautiful and blooming nature these days. You can see here the photos, and a short video. It's a jungle cat. He's looking at us, reminding us that his destiny, his future is in our hands. So this is the Israeli beautiful nature. And these days, as in the whole world, we are coping with the corona crisis. And it affects us. We can see, as the whole world, we can see here a photo of a Dizengoff Center, which is in regular days all crowded, one of the most busiest places in Israel. And as an organization, NGO, most of our income, most of our budget comes from self-generated income, hosting people in our field schools. You can see here a photo of En-Gedi Field School, working with children, working with people, all kinds of people, populations that come to visit us, come to work with us, come to travel with us. And in these days, since the restrictions that the government had here in Israel, like in the whole world, we had nobody to guide. We have no host in our field school. All of our economical or our fruitful activities were stopped in one day. And this is, of course, is a severe problem for us. And we cope with a severe economic downturn. Many of our employees, since the coronavirus started, are now in unpaid leave. The other part of the employees are in reduced hours or reduced salary at about 20%. And this includes also the executive and includes also me. It's not easy, but we are doing it together and trying to go over this tough period, because we know that nature will need us even more the day after the corona crisis. We are trying to be creative and to be relevant even in these tough days. We do a lot of work in the internet. We are trying to be relevant in the Facebook. We're trying to do a lot of activities that we can do online, but of course it is restricted. What we can do, we try to do our best. And we're taking part in the national effort fighting the coronavirus. And you can see here photos from Hermon Field School in the north. In our 3 of our field schools, we have now, we are hosting corona carriers and isolated people that were had to be far from their home, especially from Bnei Brak. Many of them are ultra-Orthodox. They live in very crowded cities, so they come to be our host. And of course, it helps us. It's a kind of a source of income, and it helps us to replace part of our income in regular days. But it also helps us to be part of the national effort coping with the corona crisis. So this is what we are doing today, and it's very sad, but protecting nature cannot stop. And we as watchdogs cannot rest anytime, even in corona time, in the corona time. We're going to see a short video. It's a little bit tough to watch, but it's short, so be prepared. It's in Hebrew, but I'll translate. Okay, this is enough. What we saw in the video is a very tough and disgusting video from Alexander Stream in the here in the center of Israel. And what we saw is blood in Alexander Stream that came from slaughterhouses. And what we have done, of course, we published it in the media, we wrote letters, and we tried to raise public awareness of what is being done even in this time of corona crisis. And now we can see a photo of GES platform. In these days, in the corona crisis time, the Ministry of Energy published a new plan for FLNG station. It's floating liquefied natural gas station. It's a huge infrastructure. As it's supposed to be in the middle of the sea, in the deep sea. The plan was published for a very short time. We, of course, wrote to the Ministry of Energy, and because, or as a result of our letter, the public now has more time to react on this plan. So we have to be aware on what the government is doing. And here in this beautiful landscape, there was a plan of the army. The army planned to pave a new road in this beautiful landscape. It's Nahal Kziv, if anybody knows this area. It's in the Western Galilee, somewhere in the middle of the way between the Mediterranean Sea and Tzfat. And because of our activity, we succeeded to prevent this harmful plan. So we cannot stop working even in these corona days. So after we saw all of this, now let's try to go deeper to our challenges in these days. Now every day or most of the time we're trying to convince people in Israel, the decision makers and the public, that there is a very strong connection between climate change and nature protection, and it's very difficult to explain such messages in every day in usual and regular days. But now, to this complication, we have another actor, a new one, and it's the coronavirus. And now we have to update our messages and to be relevant, even more relevant, even in these days. So this is climate change challenges that we have every day. It's a huge and a critical challenge that we have to cope with. And I'll try to go into the main messages. Now, I'm getting nervous when lecturers read from the slides, because I can read myself when somebody talks. But this is maybe the most important messages that we're trying to focus in these days. So let's take 1 minute to read it together. Nature is most significant, Eli, for human existence. Our partner, Eli, our partner. We might be well technologically advanced and wealthy, but without nature, we cannot exist. Nature can exist without us, but we cannot exist without nature. Nature is the source of our resilience, health, and for our human society. We are dependent on nature for food, for water, for medicine, for air quality, water quality, genetic diversity. All of these comes from nature. We cannot exist here on the planet without the nature. And the dependence is felt today in the context of coronavirus, even more than in usual days. And nature is our ally, even and especially in these days of coronavirus crisis, but coping with the ongoing climate change crisis as well. Now, this is so clear, and it's so simple, and it's so understandable. Everybody in the street, if I'll stop in the street and ask somebody what he thinks about it, everybody should agree and know it from, I don't know, since every child study how to walk. But it's so simple, and it's so complicated. And I know everybody here that is taking part in this talk is very concerned about our future, about the future of the environment. So I see you as our partners, and I want to share the challenges and the thoughts how to make these messages in a very good and high place in our agenda, in our national agenda, in our priorities. We are very far from this point here in Israel. So these are the main messages. And everybody now speaks about the coronavirus situation. You can see here the number of carriers here in Israel. Everybody follows the situation of the corona situation. Here you can see data about what happens in different cities in Israel. And every day in the news, you can see how many carriers here, how many carriers there, how many people are sick, how many people are dead, how many deaths are every day. And it's very frightening and it's very concerning. And all the agenda all over the world is focused on this agenda. But meanwhile, there is ongoing crisis that we may not forget. And this is the climate change crisis. Now we'll see a short video that shows the trends, the national, international trends. It's from NASA, the source is NASA, since the end of the previous century till today. Let's see it. No, just a moment. This should work. It worked before. Okay. I'll skip it, but you can see it's a short video that shows how all our globe is getting warmer and warmer every year. This is the final slide, the final photo in the video, and you can see that most of the planet is red, colored by red, by red and deep red. That means that most of our international surface is getting warmer and warmer from year to year. And it's relevant all over the world, of course. It's relevant for Israel as well. And even here in Israel, our situation is even worse than in the entire world. The average temperature in the whole world, the average one, was raised in the last decades in 0.6 degrees, and in Israel in 1.4. So here the heat, we got warmer in double pace than comparing to the whole world. And we can see that we are exposed to a very severe situation in all these issues that we can see here in this slide. We are very short in water even today. It's going to be much more difficult in the future. And it's a very problematic scenario that we have to cope with. So global warming is relevant for Israel as well, and even more than the other world. Now here we can see that we have in the international arena, we have two international panels that to deal with these two international issues. One is the IPCC that is dealing with climate change, International Panel for Climate Change, and the IPBES, which is less known than the IPCC, which deals it's an international panel for biodiversity and ecosystems services. And it deals with ecological crisis all over the world. Both of them are contains experts, scientists from all over the world, and they publish reports every few years. And here we can see the findings, the very problematic findings of the IPBES that was published 1 year ago, May last year. And we can see here a very dramatic, very problematic findings. That the bottom line is that the state of nature all over the world is in a very severe situation. And in such a situation that it's not only that nature is in a danger, but we as human beings are in danger. Because as we said before, our existence is based on nature, and if we'll continue in business as usual, we'll have not enough food, not enough genetic sources. All our existence here in this planet will be in question. So we can't go on business as usual, and we must do a very dramatic change so we can change this trends, very dramatic trends. So this is the severe findings of the IPBES. Now, if we go to the connection, the relationship between climate change, climate crisis, and the ecological crisis, we can see that climate change is a threat for nature and humanity as well. And of course, both of them are affecting our health and our well-being here on this planet. No, this slide, it's a little bit complicated, seem complicated, but it's very simple and very important. It's one of the, maybe the most important slide in this presentation. We can see here 3 poles: climate change, nature, and people. Now, there are all kinds of relationship and connection between these three poles. And the direction between the interactions and the relationship between them can go in a positive way, and it can go in a negative way. We are now going in a very negative way because we as people are harming the climate. We are causing to what we've seen before, the climate change, the warming, droughts, water shortage, heat waves all over the world, and this endanger the nature. Now, we harm the nature also in another way. We harm nature in a direct ways. So we harm nature in a direct way, and indirect ways through climate change. And in this way, we harm our best partner, best ally in this whole planet. Now, if we can switch the direction of this relationship, we can go in a very positive one. We can protect nature, we can stop harming the climate, and then we could live in a much more healthy, stable, and resilient planet. We can protect nature to be our ally against climate change. We'll see in a few minutes how it can happen. And we can stop or reduce our interaction with the climate, so we will stop harming nature in an indirect way. So, and in the middle of all these connections and interaction, we have the solution, and we will focus in the solution in a few minutes. And the solutions are nature-based solutions, as we will see in the next slide. So this is a very important slide, and it can show us that we can go in business as usual direction and harm ourselves, but we can go in a positive way and save nature and save ourselves. So how nature can protect us and how nature can help us? Nature can help us in 2 ways: in mitigation and in adaptation, as we speak about climate change. So let's see what we mean in every part of them. Mitigation means that we reduce the amount of gas, green gas in the atmosphere. Here we will focus on CO2, and that we can see here in this illustration that from 100% amount of CO2 that is emitted by us as human beings to the atmosphere, only 44% is going to the atmosphere and cause this global warming effects. And more than half of the CO2 that is emitted to the atmosphere is absorbed by the nature and natural ecosystems. 31% is absorbed by terrestrial ecosystems like forest, but not only forest, as we'll see in the next slide, and by the oceans and aquatic ecosystems. So more than half of the CO2 that is emitted to the atmosphere is absorbed by nature. This is the way that nature is protecting us in the mitigation side from climate crisis. When I mentioned before that nature is our ally, our partner against the climate crisis, this is the half of the way or part of what I meant. Here is the way that nature is doing it, absorbing CO2 and preventing the CO2 from being emitted to the or accumulating in the atmosphere. Now, as I said before, or as everybody knows, if you ask somebody how or where, what ecological ecosystem in the world can helps us preventing the CO2, it would be a tropical rainforest. It's the most known ecological ecosystem, but it's not the most important one. It's important. It's very important, but it's not the only one. And you can see here in the red circles that also grassland and savannas, we don't have here in Israel savannas, but grasslands we have many, help us in absorbing the CO2, not less and even more because of the huge and vast areas all over the world than tropical rainforests. And what we should take from this slide is that it's important to protect nature and ecological services, not only rainforest, but all the ecological habitats or all the natural habitats all around the planet. Here in Israel, sometimes some organization suggest that, okay, let's plant trees everywhere because trees can help us absorb CO2. It's okay if they do it in the cities, if we do it in urban nature areas, if we do it inside the cities, but it's not good and it's very harmful if we do it we are taking a natural habitat that should be a grassland and we transmit it to be forest. If we do this, we are ruining a natural habitat and we are solving one problem, but we're creating another one. So we have to understand the system as a whole and protect nature and natural habitats as we have them here in Israel and the whole world. There is no magic solution, plant trees all over the world. No magic solutions. We have to understand how nature works and we have to give honor to the nature and protect the nature as we know it. So we saw that nature helps us dealing with the climate crisis in mitigation side. But the other side is adaptation. And here we see all kinds of issues, all kinds of topics where we can have nature-based solutions and nature can be our partner to cope with the application, with the consequences of climate change. And we'll see one good example in a minute. This is the example. What we see here is the issue of the streams here in Israel. It's not huge streams, but very important as eco corridors here in Israel and for leisure and for ecotourism and green lungs inside our cities and between the cities. And we can see that the traditional way to prevent floods, which are more common now because of the climate crisis, the traditional way was to take the water from point A to point B in the most fast, short, and easy way. And the solution was to build a concrete pipe or concrete kind of tunnel that take the water as fast as you can to prevent the fields from being flooded and to prevent damage for the farmers. Now, what we have here is lose situation. Why? Because we have no natural habitats along this stream, or what remains from this stream. We have a very severe loss of fertile soil. You can see the soil that was taken by the water. We lost water because the water went to the sea and they were not absorbed into the soil. And we don't have a place to walk here and to enjoy the stream. So we lost the water, we lost the habitat, the natural habitat, and we've got floods because you see that this solution is not enough. The water won here, and they ruined everything and all the infrastructure that we built here. And of course, I think that it's ugly. And there is another solution, nature-based solution, here in the right side. And what we can see here is a nature-based solution to take water from point A to point B, but to do it in a win-win-win-win situation. We have natural habitats and all the biodiversity protected along this stream. We can give the water, the rain, being absorbed in the soil because the water goes slowly in natural way. Do not lose fertile soil along this along the path of the stream. It's beautiful. Everybody can enjoy it, can walk or can ride along this nice stream. And okay, some part of the year the fields are flooded near the stream, but it's not such a great loss, and we can compensate the farmers. It's much more cheaper than the first solutions that we see in this side of the slide. So here we can see it's just an example in the streams case here in Israel, a very important issue that we are dealing with here in the SPNI, but in every topic, as we mentioned before, protecting the sea, urban nature, planning, agriculture, we have nature-based solution that can help us protect the nature and coping much better with the climate crisis. Nature helps us in more aspects. Of course, nature gives us a source for our medicines, our medicine cabinet, as we call it. Nature is an endless genetic library. Here we can see a photo of the wheat field. Here in Israel, we have the mother of the wheat, the wild species that was the source from the wheat all over the world. I learned a new English word this evening. I'll find it, heirloom. So this ancient species of wheat is our heirloom, part of our heirloom to the next generations. And we don't even know all this, what we have in this genetic library, and we should keep it as a heirloom for the next generation. And nature we'll read it together because it's so important, a source of resilience, health, balance, stability, and human well-being. This is nature for us, for climate change, for our well-being, for our existence here on this planet, and of course in the coronavirus situation as well. So if we sum up what we've talked till now, is that nature is the foundation of our resilience, health, stability, and human well-being. If we protect nature, it will return, and help us stay safe. If we protect nature, we will help nature protect us. And the coronavirus is a very important landmark. It's not an easy landmark because things can go back, can go in reverse way. I feel that we stand in a kind of junction, and the coronavirus crisis, like as people say, other crises can be an opportunity, but it's not so easy to take a crisis and make it an opportunity. We have to be precise. We have to be to know how to do it. And to prevent the situation that the coronavirus crisis will take us back, will take us much, it's even now, even before the coronavirus crisis, it was not easy to speak about climate crisis here in Israel. It's not in a good place in the agenda. And now the coronavirus can make an opportunity, open a window for us, but it's a challenge to take it and to make it to an opportunity. And if you have thoughts or ideas, I would like to share it with you, because this is the main challenge that I feel that we cope with today in these days. And we need you with us during this critical era. It's a historic landmark these days. And we have to take these days to move forward. We don't have another opportunity. We don't have planet B, as we usually say. And this is it for meanwhile. I didn't see the questions or the remarks in the chat, if there are.
I have a few for you, Irit.
Okay.
We've been gathering a couple. Jonathan Blimes asks us a couple questions. One is, how does the situation of the Kinneret affect SPNI? I assume he means the fact that the Kinneret is full for the first time in 20 years. How's that affected our work?
The Kinneret is full. Well, it's kind of tricky because, people look out from the window, and it's very, very hard to convince that our planet is on fire, and we have climate problems and climate crisis. And people see the Kinneret, and it's in a good situation, and they forget we have a very short memory, especially for bad things. And we forgot that before the last year and this year, we had 5 years of a very severe and tough drought, and it can come back. It's very tricky, the climate change situation, and it can, now we see we had two good winters, and it's much more challenging to convince people that we are in a problem. Of course, we're very happy that the Kinneret is in a good situation.
Thanks. Michael Goodman asks a question that I know your close friend and leading environmentalist Alon Tal has what to say about. Michael wants to know, how important is it to slowing population growth to protect nature?
It is very important. It's a key issue, but it's so complicated here to speak about it here in Israel, and because of the religious, because of demographic issues, and there are so many things that we can do here in Israel before we speak about population. So we in the SPNI are trying to focus on things that we know that we can get consensus on before we go to the tough questions and tough issues that are very important. He's right. It's a main issue all over the world and here in Israel as well, because the population growth in Israel is higher. Comparing the whole world, it's 1.8% every year. It's a very high rate comparing to the modern, to the developed world. It's more typical to developing countries, not developed countries. And it's an issue here in Israel, but we have so many things to do before. So if we will succeed in other issues, we'll go to the next challenge.
Thanks. So a quick follow-up to the Kinneret question, and I'll ask them together, which is the question, so what's the situation with the Dead Sea? And after that, question from France, from Nicole, which I think is the question of the night for you, which is, what are your suggestions about using the corona crisis as a jumping off point for changing the discourse about nature protection?
This is the $1 million question. The Dead Sea is a little bit better these days because of we had a very good winter. and more water goes along the Jordan River. But the Dead Sea is a kind of a mirror to the whole water management situation in Israel, in the whole Middle East. And this problem or this situation is not going to be solved in the seen future, because we use much more than nature gives us every year. So we are in a kind of overdraft, ongoing overdraft in the Dead Sea. We use much more than the Dead Sea refills every year, and there is no solution in the future. There is a very short-term solution, kind of pilot, to take water from the Red Sea to the Dead Sea, the Red Dead Canal, but it's not, it's a kind of pilot. We don't know what is going to happen as a result of this pilot, and it's not going to solve the whole problem. The Dead Sea is going to shrink in the coming years. Now, how are we going to use the coronavirus crisis? Well, it's a good question. We are working on it. We know now people are still very busy on the economic situation and the health situation. It's still early to speak about it, but and we are doing it all along this period. Is the understanding how nature and nature near our house is important for us. Because in these restrictions, 100 meters here in Israel, it's a little bit different in all in different countries, but people found or revealed the nature that they have near the house. And I believe and I hope that the understanding of the importance of the nature will be easier in the coming future. But this is the main challenge that we have. We are working on it.
Thanks. Just to answer, somebody asked, "What's the Kinneret?" Kinneret is the Sea of Galilee. It's the what we call it in Hebrew. Somebody's asking a question which you sort of touched on before. Are there any positives for nature in Israel now that there's less driving, more people staying inside? There have been worldwide reports of less air pollution, animals coming out to places where they weren't seen very often. We talked about that the first week of the letdown, and you were somehow disappointed. And I felt from you, you were concerned about this feeling everybody's having.
Yeah, well, it has a few aspects. We had in the media here in Israel, I don't know if it's in other places in the world, that we are inside in kind of a quarantine in our homes, and the nature celebrates. In my city, in Haifa, wild boars are walking in the streets, and jackals here in the parks and in the streets of Tel Aviv, and the ibexes in the promenade of Eilat, many photos, videos of nature celebrating when we people are quarantined and caged in our homes. I don't like it. I don't like this motive, because our message or our motive is to convince people that we and nature are connected. And our future is not on the expense of the nature future and vice versa. We have to live together. We have to live together as neighbors. We have to respect nature. We don't have to be closed in our homes, so nature will be celebrating. Nature should celebrate every day. So I don't like this kind of, situation. I would like to see nature not boars in the streets. It's not good. We have to find a new routine to live with nature, to let nature flourish and bloom near us, with us, and not one of the expense of another. One more issue is, and I know that it's in more countries in the world and in Israel as well, that there is much more crimes, environmental crimes, in the time of the coronavirus crisis. We know that there is much more hunting, illegal hunting in the open spaces in the coronavirus crisis time. We know that there is much more illegal fishing in the sea in the coronavirus time. We know that vehicles, all kinds of four wheels drive vehicles are driving in the open spaces and ruining nature. We have videos of this, and people pick illegal picking and cutting of flowers and protected flowers and plants, throwing garbage in the open spaces. There are much more crimes, environmental crimes in these days. So we are not in a good time. It's not a good time, not for nature and not for human beings. This is not a situation or the future that I like to see in the future.
Interesting. Interesting. Another question from Jonathan Blimes. He asked if you could say a word about the afforestation policies of the Jewish National Fund, Kakal in Israel, that we've taken exception to.
Okay.
I swear I didn't prompt that question.
Okay, I'm not sure, but okay, no, it's a good point. Because I mentioned it before in the presentation, but maybe I'll be more precise on this issue. There is a kind of, there are people or organizations that believe that there is magic solutions for climate change crisis. There was even a paper that was written that we have to plant 1 billion trees along of the whole globe, and this will solve all our climate change problems. Well, this is a mistake, because we can't solve one problem by creating another one. We have to understand, as I said before, that our ally, or the key to our existence here on the planet, is nature protection. Protecting natural habitats, and taking one habitat, the grasslands here in Israel, which are so important for the biodiversity, or the Kurkar areas. It's a very special habitat that we have only here in Israel. To take these areas and to ruin them and to behave or to act with them like it's an agricultural field and to plant trees, it's a huge mistake. There was a very interesting research that was taking part in the northern part of the Negev, the desert in Israel, that find out that in semi-arid areas, if you plant trees in semi-arid areas, then places that should not be forested, they are a desert, kind of desert and arid areas, it takes 80 years since this forest will cool the atmosphere. And in the first 80 years, it warms the atmosphere. Because all kinds of very complicated explanation, it's complicated for me in Hebrew, it's much more complicated for me to explain it in English.
It's the albedo effect. It's because the darkened areas absorb more heat than the light areas. The dark areas, the tree covers, absorbs more heat and doesn't reflect it back the way the light colored areas do. In 80 years, which it takes for that carbon to offset, is more or less the lifespan of the trees that grow in that area. So yeah, from climate change perspective, it's wrong. But even worse, it harms the natural biodiversity of the area.
So we saw the connection, the very strong connection between the ecological crisis and the climate crisis. Trying to solve the climate crisis on the expense of ecological crisis, it's a huge mistake. And JNF is doing it in part of the areas in Israel, and we fight it. We see it as a threat, part of our agenda, and I'm very proud of this agenda. We have to understand the whole picture and not to do half of the work. It can cause much more harm than to help.
Iris, thank you. There's a discussion going on about the Red Dead Sea Canal. What's going on with that? What do you feel about it? Is it possible a way to cooperate with Jordan? Is it going to degrade the Dead Sea even more? What do we think?
We know we are not against this pilot. The pilot, or the purpose, the main purpose of the pilot is to give desalinate water for Jordan, which have a severe shortage of water. So the water comes from the Red Sea. It's zero, it's the water, the sea level surface, and it goes 400 meters down. And on the way down to the Dead Sea, it will generate desalination plants for Jordan. Now, the pilot is in a small scale, and it's a pilot. And we don't know what is going to happen with the pilot. We'll see what is going to happen with the pilot, and we'll be able to know what to do in the future. But it's not going to solve the whole issue of the Dead Sea.
Okay. Trying to see if there are any more questions we haven't answered other than some specific and technical ones. I know one of the people asked, the first question we had, Iris, was somebody just made a comment they'd like to see more Tiulim in English like there used to be in the district in SBNI, and I know that we're all in favor of that and hopefully can begin that before the end of the year. In addition, by the way, we do run a couple times a year through our partners ASPNI and CSPNI in the States and in Canada. We run nature discovery missions to Israel. Board members of ours come, and it's a great way to see Israel, usually a week long. We're still on our schedule is one in November, I believe November 5th. Don't hold me on that, but it's on our website. And at the moment, we're not canceling the November mission to Israel. So if you can.
And one more thing, Jay, if there is a group, our main challenge or main difficulty is to do the marketing to gather groups together. But so if somebody alone or one family calls us, it's problematic for us. But if there is a group, organized group that wants to come to Israel and they want us to guide them or to host them in a field school, it's not a problem. We can do it. We do it.
Cool. Listen, somebody here, an anonymous attendee, has written, not a question, but you rock, Iris. Kol hakavod. It was that's nice. Sweet of you to have your mom get on. No, just joking. Somebody asked about endangered species that SPNI is working with, and that we think we're going to be adversely affected by global warming. What can you mention?
It's a main issue. We have in Israel, I didn't focus on it, but in Israel we have a very special biodiversity. We have 2,400 species of plants. It's an international importance, it's international scale of importance of biodiversity. We have 500 million of birds that are migrating all over Israel twice a year. We are in a junction of 3 continents, and we have species from all over the world meeting here in the small country of Israel. We have many in an international scale. We have many endangered species. We have very unique species. We have you can drive in Israel. I don't know if the one that asked have been in Israel, but if he's not, and for the people that has not been in Israel yet, you can go walk or drive in Israel for sometimes minutes or a few hours and go from a beautiful Mediterranean forest to a full desert. And this change in such a short distance is it's very unique in international scale, and it offers a unique biodiversity that you can find in very few places all over the world. So of course here in the SPNI, we focus on this issue. We are the leading, I think the only NGO that protect nature in Israel. There are many NGOs, environmental NGOs in Israel, very important ones, national scale, in local scale, we work with them, and many of them focus on air quality, water quality, all kinds of transportation, all kinds of issues that are very, very important. But we are the only only organizations that from the first days focused on protecting nature. It's not luxury. It sometimes seems in Israel that it's luxury. It's not luxury. It's the base of our existence here on the globe. We have beautiful and very important nature here in Israel, biodiversity here in Israel, although we are a very small country and we focus on it. It's main topic that we deal with. We have all the priorities to our agenda here in the SPNI is driven from the importance of habitats, from this aspect of protecting endangered and unique species, plants and animals. It's the main things that we do. It's our logo. Our logo is the iris, my name.
Absolutely. We're really helping a lot of endangered species, both endangered globally and especially in species that are endangered here locally, like our otters, for example. We're down to just a handful of otters left in Israel. They've been pushed out by invasive species and birds and all kinds of the Israeli gazelles. We're working on all kinds of endangered species. I think we're going to need to wrap up here in a minute or two. A lot more questions about water issues and whether we're going to open the Kinneret and let the water flow towards the Dead Sea and rehabilitate the Jordan. And somebody suggested that we have a whole session like this on the water economy in Israel. And I think that's a good thing because it is confusing. I mean, in one hand, everybody hears about desalination and we have so much water to drink in Israel. We solved the water problem. But in reality, we need to get the water back to nature. And our rivers are still dry and the Kinneret is having a moment. But that's, I think, is something worthy of having you on, Iris, and maybe Alon and some of our other experts on that.
Maybe one word about it, because after effort of a few years, the government adopted a plan that we suggested that nature will get water from desalination, because nature was the last in the line to get water. Nature was not a legitimate consumer of water here in Israel. And after a fight of a few years that we, the SPNI, led, the government about a year and a half or 2 years ago adopted the plan to renovate 8 streams here in Israel and to give back the nature, the water that we've taken to begin with in the first place. And now we are being watchdogs to see that this plan is going to be implemented, because the decision is very important. But if the decision is going to stay on the paper, we didn't do anything. We do, but it's not enough. And our efforts now goes to the implementation of this very important decision. And it's a whole issue, water management.
Yes, you say it was a decision by the government, but I don't remember. What does that word mean, government?
We'll see in a few days. I don't know. I didn't follow the news these days. So
when did you get that promise? Because, okay.
We are optimistic.
We're optimistic. We're optimistic. We could have a functioning government and maybe a very friendly Minister of Environmental Protection and hopefully a friendly Minister of Energy and Infrastructure. Those things we'll be reporting on in the future. Somebody asked about or suggests that we have affiliate memberships as a way for our supporters abroad to contribute. And we do. We have affiliates in the United States and Canada, in the UK and in France. All of these places have offices that you can write a check to, and you can donate online in those currencies and to those NGOs in those countries for tax donation. You can find how to contact us online for donations or also for all the questions we haven't answered. If you want to be in touch with us, with Iris, with me or Lawrence, find us at natureisrael.org. Easy to remember. There's so many more questions, Iris, but we'll have to do them some other time.
One more thing.
Yes.
Well, I like to talk to people. It's much more difficult for me in English than in Hebrew, but I like to talk to people. It's very frustrating not to see the people that I'm talking with. Yeah, it's difficult and challenging, but I can't see you all, but I can feel, you can see me, but I can see you, can't see you, but I can feel you. And we have a very important mission together. So we have no other choice than to do it, and to do it in the best way we can.
We have no planet B.
We have no planet B.
Thank you very much, Iris. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Lawrence. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in from all over. 150 of you here and another, I don't know how many on Facebook, dozens. But thank you very much. Happy to see you. Please, please support us if you can. Contact us. Let us have your email addresses, your mailing addresses. You can send your annual calendar. We put out every year with beautiful nature pictures. So please be in touch. Thank you so much. Good night, good evening, good afternoon from Tel Aviv. Laila Tov.
Laila Tov. Toda.